Well, I've been very fortunate to have a lot of interesting projects come through Slacky Studio here. Probably my shining moments, the Jim Lauderdale Bluegrass Diaries that won a Grammy for the 2008 Bluegrass Album of the Year. And of course, I do a lot of my own recording, and I do a lot of internet recording, a lot of overdubs. So you're liable to see just about any player in town here coming in for just spot overdubs and sending files to all over the planet. I first heard about Royers in a magazine ad, and then I went to a recording session that Chuck Ainlay was the engineer, and he and I were talking about them, and this was, I don't know, probably 6 years ago, I guess. And he said, "Boy, there's been a lot of buzz about these microphones, and you have to try one." And we actually it wasn't long after that Chuck called me, and we ended up hooking up, and I went over there and tried one. He had one, I guess he was recording Aubrey Haney's fiddle with and a couple other things, and he said, "Man, you got to come over and check this mic out." So I went over. I happened to be mastering a record upstairs with Brandy Leroy, and I just snuck down with my dobro, played through it a little bit, and I called you guys the same day. I've used Royers on nearly every application under the sun, and for me, there's no better microphone for recording violin, especially bright violins. They soften without darkening them. They make a very three-dimensional image. They always cut through the mix without overtaking the lead vocal. But yet they still have that clean, somewhat nostalgic sort of sound that you crave from a ribbon mic. So it's the first call. It's really the only thing I'll put up on a fiddle.
Nice.
Banjos are very fickle. And a lot of times people will bring in banjos that are very bright, and you can offset some of that harshness by putting a Royer up on them. For dobro, it's the cone side of the instrument. When I multi mic, I'll have a Royer on the cone side, and I'll have something else, maybe Mojave Audio, maybe one of the MA100s or an MA200, just to collect brightness and definition and stereo image. That Royer is really working overtime.
Nice. Which one do you use? Are you using like the 121 or the 122?
I like the 122 just for the fact that the phantom power gives it lots of beef, and you can keep a preamp at pretty low gain and low self noise when you're recording, and you're still hitting -5 and -6 on the board, and it's where it needs to be. And I have lots of old vintage preamps here behind me, a lot of old 601s and a couple of the 351 2-inch tape machine preamps made for some of my older ribbon mics that I do have in my collection. But I find myself not turning them on quite as often anymore as my Great Rivers and my Fred Forsels, because I'm just after a little bit cleaner sound, but still having that rich, nostalgic kind of ribbony tone. So the Royers, being phantom powered, really please me working with those modern type of preamps. It's the old and the new coming together.
Nice.
It's a balance. Digital recording is getting better with time, and the way I see Royers fitting in with that is just being able to balance the new and the old, to be able to have that three-dimensional image. It's really easy to get A to B, and it's really easy to get C to D when you're mixing. It's really hard to get E to F. That natural proximities of where you want to place guitar amps and Leslie cabinets and acoustic instruments versus electric instruments, and that placement is getting better and better with our technology, and you capture natural room tones with a figure 8 microphone. So for me, 121 is the right call on a lot of things, because I get that vibey E to F thing that I'm talking about.
Nice. Sort of like the size.
Yeah, right. And it's not, and it doesn't have to be right there in your face. It can be, dimensional size that is. When I mix, I try to close my eyes and picture a band on a stage, and all those members of that band in their respective spots in watching a stage show, and that's really what I try to do when I mix.
easy.
Well, I find myself not having to EQ stuff to death anymore. For me, it's natural. Ribbons work like the human ear, and if the sound source is really good that you're recording, it just makes life really easy. I don't. It's a matter of turning a fader up and down as to how loud I want it, not how harsh it is or how soft it is. I find myself with acoustic guitars rolling off just using a Cambridge EQ, which I'm a Universal Audio artist, so I'm proud to use their products, and I find myself just stereo recording with a couple of Royers or one Royer and something bright, depending on whether it's an old boomy Martin or just what it is. But I always find that Royers just save me time because they capture natural nuance, and they don't go overboard with hyped bottom end or hyped top end. It's a very natural sound that I know I can always count on.